So, welcome to this episode of Menopause Conversations. My name is Amantha King. I'm a workplace menopause consultant. I advise companies on all things menopause and culture, and I'm also an executive performance coach. And I'm delighted to have my guest, who I quite literally bumped into at a conference in November known as Pause Live, about all things menopause. I'm delighted to welcome my guest, Louise Nicholson, the founder of 51 Apparel. Hello, Louise. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, Samantha. How are you?
I'm really good, thank you. And let's cast our minds back to November then, in the Business Design Centre in London. I didn't tell anyone I was going because I didn't want anyone to notice I was there. But one thing I did notice as I turned the corner was your fabulous stall that you had, which was all around clothing. So, as the founder of 51 Apparel, tell us a little bit about you, Louise, and tell us about your fabulous company and the products that you're offering.
Okay, so the journey of coming to 51 Apparel started um, in my other career, which is in fabrics. So I've always had a background in fabrics and technology and innovation. And I'm going to say about 7 years ago now, I was in Iceland with a good friend of mine who was literally stripping off layers of clothing when it was about -4. And it was all very strange. We were all putting the layers on, she was taking them all off. Um, didn't really say anything, just thought she probably was just, I couldn't think why she was like that. But anyway, and we didn't ask. Um, and then about 2 months later, I was listening to the radio, and there's a man on the radio talking about his wife and saying how his wife was really struggling with the menopause and how she couldn't sleep at night. And I literally had just come out of a meeting for menswear, actually. I had this technical fabric in my car. And I was thinking, I'm sure that would work for this woman, this poor woman who, and because the husband was saying there's nothing out there, I don't know what to do for her. Um, so I got back to my office, did a little bit of research, and I couldn't find anything other than really disgusting night dresses out there for that woman at extortionate prices. Something like all in America as well. $100 for a night dress. It was clearly just not particularly nice fabric. And that's how it all started. So I thought, you know what, sometimes this is an opportunity to look at what people do need that's not out there. And so I did a few trials, got some fabric, had some fabric in my office, made a few garments up, did a few trials with some ladies who subsequently had told me that they were going through the menopause. And they were saying, oh, it's really good, it's really helping, it's alleviating the hot sweats that we're getting. And I thought, oh, maybe they're just being quite nice and polite. So I sort of did some more work, did some more trials, and it was all everything was positive. And then that's when I thought, you know what, I should just do this because I can't really see anybody doing what we're doing. Because, when you're thinking about all the experiences that you have with people that it then made me cast my mind back to when I first started working, and we used to have a lady coming around doing our teas and biscuits when we had meetings. And she was always going on about, oh, I'm so hot, I'm so hot. And of course, when I look back at her, she was going through the menopause. And it was then that I thought, you know what, everything that I've seen so far is nightwear. And actually women do go through it when they're at the work. So that's when we started thinking to make a product that is just as acceptable in terms of how it looks in the boardroom as well as in the bedroom, really. So that's how we started the range of clothing. That's how it came to be.
It's amazing. I love that story. That's the first time I've heard you say that story, because we really have only just really connected, haven't we?
Yeah,
Apart from
yeah.
that one time, and I had to rush to get my train, and I said to you, I will be back in touch with you and get you on my YouTube channel.
Good as your word.
Yeah. Oh my God. If I say it, you can trust me. If there's anything, it's that's really important to me, that integrity. And I know it's taken a little bit of time to get this done, but it is amazing. And the amount of people that were coming to your store, and I actually met a couple of colleagues there, and they said, oh, you must really go and try that clothing, go and feel it, go and feel the fabric. So So we know, don't we, but if anyone has missed this piece of information, that the average age, if you were a white woman, to experience menopause is 51.
Yeah.
However, if you are Asian or Black ethnicity, as I am, I'm half Sri Lankan. I was in my 30s, Louise, when I first started getting symptoms. I'm now
Oh, wow.
I'm now in my
Wow.
50s. So for 16 years, I haven't had access to clothing that would have been helpful to me. And largely, I can probably count on one hand the number of hot flashes that I've had. I tend to get very, very cold, and I think that's one of the things that really appealed to me about the items of clothing, which are so beautiful, that you're offering. But let's talk a little bit about you. You said I could ask you anything, so I am going to ask you something. And
Oops.
we just said off camera, I said, oh, can I ask you about your own menopause? And actually it was really interesting, because you was almost like, well, my story's not that interesting, but your story is representative of 1 in 4 people with female biology, in that actually some people generally have an okay transition through their menopause. So let's
Yeah.
celebrate that. I want to celebrate that, because as a postmenopausal woman myself now, we need to let people know that it's a transition. It will be unique to everybody, but actually some people it's not going to be as problematic, and we should celebrate that 100%. So
Yeah.
can you tell us a
No,
little
that's
bit about your experience of menopause yourself?
so. My experience was, was easy, I would say, and that's I'm not. This is not bragging. I'm just. It was.
No.
I didn't really have any issues. Um, Not, but there's an element of when I look at it, I was so busy. Work was, I had 2 kids, a house, and commuting. There was so much going on, and I don't know whether or not I almost didn't notice. I know that's a
Mm,
terrible thing, but it wasn't so severe that I did. So, yes, maybe some nights I probably was hotter than normal, but I didn't really, I didn't have what a lot of women have, where it keeps them awake at night. They're feeling exhausted in the morning. The only thing that I would say that I probably did have, which I didn't really, um, put 2 and 2 together, but I probably was anxious. I had anxiety. So that's, I'd wake up about 4 in the morning, really stressing about stuff to do with work or at home. And you know what? I'd lie there at 4, half 4 in the morning, but once I got up at 6:30, taking the dog for a walk, I actually didn't know what I was worried about.
yeah.
It was almost like, I don't know why I worried about that, because it's obviously all I need to do is X, and it will be sorted. So that's the only thing that I could say was noticeable and I put that down to the menopause, but at the time I kind of didn't know that's what it was. I just thought I was just being stressy for the sake of,
Of course.
unnecessarily.
Of course, and
Um,
we know, don't we? This whole midlife section of our lives is very complex, in that it's not so easy to dissect and say, well, that's menopause or that's just the stresses of life. But we do know
yeah,
that stress does precipitate greater levels of anxiety. It does rob us of our own natural levels of our hormones. So it's
but
interesting. It's interesting that
I
you say
also
that.
think that with again, because of the timing of menopause, it is coming at a time when women are, especially now that more women are working. Obviously, it's been well recorded. More women are working now through their menopause than in any other generation. So it does come with so much going on that you could put it down to so many other things, and it might not be all those other things. It might just be it is menopause. So I
Yes,
think that's why it's been masked
I agree.
to a lot of, and women tend to just get on anyway with it. But that's why I think it's only now that women are going, actually, looking back, that's probably what it is.
Absolutely, and I like to sort of describe menopause a bit like an octopus, because it will the tentacles will go into things like affecting your sleep. So if you're not sleeping well, then are you more likely to feel anxious or depleted or fatigued, less alert the next day? So often our approach is, I know the media today is saying that menopause is being overly medicalized, There's
Yeah.
something in the Lancet today. There's a headline every day. I'm grateful for those headlines. Not all of them are great headlines, but I'm grateful because it keeps menopause as part of the conversation. It
Yeah,
keeps
absolutely.
us moving forward. So these rich testimonies, yours included, are really powerful because on some
Mm.
level you must have huge amounts of empathy because you've founded a business which is all about supporting those women who perhaps are having a very different experience to the one
Yeah.
that you've had. So I'm here to celebrate you, really, because I think that's a wonderful thing. That's the power of women, and the power of people who really can acknowledge that menopause for a lot of people isn't easy. So if we can do stuff to make that better alongside HRT, what are your views on HRT versus holistic, or in combination with holistic, I should probably say? What are
Well,
your views?
listen, I'm a big one for if it makes people's lives better, go for it, you know. And I've been to so many um, sort of menopausal events where they've been talking about HRT, and I've been thinking, oh my God, that sounds amazing. You know, it sounds unbelievable. And I kind of am gutted that I kind of never took it, you know. So, um, and I probably would be prescribed it because I don't really warrant it if that's the, you know, in the true sense of people really needing it. But no, I think it's great. I think it's good. And if that's what works for people, you know, I wouldn't criticize it at all. And I'm not a medic, so I couldn't go into the pros
No.
and cons, but from what I know about it and from people who've, you know, friends of mine who have taken it, you know, it's great. But you know, it's not for everybody. A lot of people, you know, some people just don't like medication. They don't like taking medicines,
True. True.
you know.
I would say, with my menopause hat on, I mean, my mum just turned 80. My mum stopped taking HRT 15 years ago, but my mum is now taking localized estrogen in a pessary form and a cream form for we call it genitourinary syndrome of menopause. So for symptoms you might be having in your intimate area. Now, the point about that is that I always say to people not to rule it out,
Mm,
because menopause is a constantly moving target. In your case, Louise, perimenopause was not as noticeable, or maybe not as disruptive, listening to what the things you've been saying. But if you found, for example, that you were getting more urinary tract infections, you were feeling more uncomfortable, maybe your quality of life was being depleted a little bit because walking or cycling or anything like that could cause irritation in your intimate area, the point is you don't need to suffer in silence. And it's the other thing that we must also remind people of is that menopause is about our bone health, our heart health, our brain health. So we maybe don't necessarily see or know that we could be benefiting from it. That's why it's very important for people to keep up with their DEXA scans, their breast health, so things like mammograms, your smear tests. These are other ways that we can see, do you now need a little bit extra? So
mm,
it's definitely not about you've missed the boat. I wouldn't want you to think that you've missed an opportunity. That is still available to you. And as I've said, women in large numbers actually are now, and my mum was part of the generation where HRT was withdrawn due to the women's um, health studies. So
right.
the Women's Health Initiative study, which was sort of saying that HRT was no good for anybody and it was actually dangerous. We know that's not true. And we know that localized estrogen, which is not the same thing as HRT, is incredibly safe. So these are things not to rule out, not to
Mm,
suffer in silence, not to think I'm too old. That's definitely not the case. So that's really valuable that you've just said that. But anyway,
yeah.
listen, I could chat to you all day, but we need to get the stars of the show on view here, which is, so I said to Louise prior to sort of coming on the call, I said, can you bring some items on? Because I know people will want to see them. And one of the things that we must really make clear from the get-go is this is not just about undergarments, is it, Louise?
No.
Are you able to sort of tell us the breadth and depth of what you're offering?
So the whole idea about the garments is that it's flexible, it's versatile, because what we wanted to do was make it a product that is not just doesn't it's not only about alleviating the effects of the menopause, like the hot sweats and the cold sweats. it's about looking good. It's about having a nice garment. Um, there's no, I always say there's no point in having a really uh, amazingly technical product if it's horrible, if nobody wants to wear it. So everything that we've made has been something that you could wear with a pair of jeans, you could wear under a suit, um, you could even wear it or you might even want to wear it in bed, like the camis. Some people are wearing it in bed, some people are wearing it as a base under all their um, shirts or blouses. So everything is really, the fabric is all handles beautifully, it all feels really lovely, so it's great against the skin. The finishes, we make sure that the manufacturing is really good, so we have nice little touches, so it might be nicely finished at the neck. So we just made sure that it's one of your go-tos. So when you want to wear a long sleeve top, you might not even be feeling hot or whatever, but it's one that you want to wear. So we've tried to make it really, everything's quite cool. We've got leggings, we've got lovely palazzo pants, which are gorgeous, some lounge pants, and then we've just got tops. Everything mixes and matches within the range as well. So it's all quite easy, very easy to wear. Yeah, and it's just, it goes across the board. You can wear it whenever you like. It's 24/7 clothing, basically.
And
I
this is
mean, if you're really,
amazing.
yeah, I was
Sorry.
going to say, if you're really scuzzy and you sort of like me, you sort of go to sleep in your legging and then you get up and walk the dog and then sort of like, or you can't to get changed. That really is 24/7.
So versatile. And so tell us a bit, because again, you said to me you spotted a gap, didn't
Yeah,
you? And
yeah,
that gap was around exactly that. So tell us a little bit
yeah.
about that.
Well, it's, the clothing market is totally saturated. I mean, I've been in the industry since I left, uni. Um, and, there's so many brands out there, all sort of like, you think about sportswear brands, how many are there? There's just like so much of everything. And I just thought, oh, but I couldn't believe there was nothing for this woman. There's nothing out there that is really saying this is for you. You know, um, there's obviously there's that age bracket. There's clothing, but nothing that actually is trying to solve a problem that they might have. Now, when you look at, because I had this conversation with other people, and they said, "Well, why aren't other brands doing it?" They may be doing it, but they're not actually shouting about it. So they may be selling it almost under the radar, but they're not using this technology. But they might be using cooling technology, but the cooling doesn't actually keep your body regulated. Whereas this technology that we're using, which I have to say, I should tell you, was developed by NASA.
Yeah, so can you tell us a little bit about the technology? Because people will be screaming at the screens going, well, what
What
is
is
it
it?
then? What is it
Yeah,
then?
sorry, quite a big point. So this is a technology that was developed by NASA to help astronauts to keep their body regulated in space. And the whole concept behind it is that the fabric um, almost interprets the body's heat. So when the body starts heating up, the fabric will take your heat, it will store it, and then when your body starts to cool down, it releases it back to you.
Wow, so that's like solar panel
So it's
cells,
like
isn't it?
it's just intelligent clothing, but it's
Yeah.
intelligent clothing. So that's the whole principle of the comfort side, because a lot of women, like you just mentioned before, you don't have the hot sweats, but you feel cold.
Yeah, all the time.
So basic, the whole concept is that when you're feeling hot, you should feel cooler, and when you're feeling cool, you should feel hot, warmer. Um, which is and I think I mentioned it to you before we came on, is that it's quite a hard sell in a way, because when people are cold, they know they're cold. When people are hot, they know they're hot. But when actually people are comfortable, they go, oh, they don't think, oh, I'm
No,
comfortable,
it's
I'm
outside of
wearing
our awareness, isn't it? Because
yeah,
we're in inverted commas
yeah.
all right.
So it's almost like trying to tell people, well, how do you feel? Yeah, it's okay. But it's funny because was one of my main concerns when we were launching this, but we've got women buying 8, 9 times maybe the same item of clothing every time, you know, so that's my reassurance that it's a good product, you know, that is
Yeah,
working for people. And all
amazing.
the reviews tend to, you know, all good, you know, getting really good reviews from people, even people who are really suffering severe hot sweats, night sweats. You know, they'd written and said, you know, I was waking up 7 times, 8 times a night, and now I'm only waking up 2 times,
That's
which
amazing.
she's still waking up, but it's not to the level that it was. Um,
No. And it's the whole waking up and what is involved. I hear stories about people having to change, not just change their clothes,
oh,
changing
this,
bed sheets, you know, and then once you're awake, aren't you? It's that whole thing. Night waking isn't a problem in itself, but the reasons for night waking are things that we sort of need to understand a bit more. So, what you know, if I were to wash this, I mean, tell me about the very practical elements of it. I mean, what
oh,
is the fabric made? What is this? What is
so
it made of?
yeah, so we've used, again, thinking about the customer, we we believe that they prefer like natural fibres.
Yes.
So we've gone down that route of we use cottons, modals, viscose. So they're all natural fibres. So just to give you all a bit of a technical
Yes.
textile background. So a viscose is, although it's a man-made fibre, as is modal, but it's made from wood. So
It.
so modal is made from beech trees, um, and the viscose is made from wood pulp. So they are coming from natural sources,
Wow.
although those two yarns are man-made. So that's the other thing that we wanted to do, is make it more appealing because a lot of women like cotton. They believe that cotton
Yes.
is a good naturally cooling, but we've obviously the viscose and the modals give it a real softness, so we use those fibres. So we use three combinations: cotton, viscose, cotton, modal, as a rule, and viscose spandex. So yeah,
And
but comfort is
it's a lovely drapey sort of feeling, isn't it? I know
yeah,
instantly because I can think to myself, the sort of thing underwear that I'm buying, it's just, you know, it is that feel against your skin, because
yeah,
actually our skin does get much more sensitive during the menopause transition, and ultimately often gets thinner, maybe drier. So things can, even fabrics can feel quite abrasive. So having that drapey and that nice soft feel is absolutely
yeah.
wonderful.
I think fabrics. I think we give the customer a disservice in a way, because I don't think there's enough about the fabrics. You know, I think a lot of people think, oh, they won't mind as long as the style's right, but people do. You know, if you have a fabric that it's really lovely against the skin, it drapes really nicely, it does get noticed, you know, and I think there's not enough um, attention given to actually fabric qualities in a garment.
Well,
It
this is
does
it.
make a difference.
It makes a massive, because I actually said to you, didn't I? I said I've
Yeah.
got a really thick, almost like a walking vest under my jumper. I'm still blimmin' freezing. And then sometime later I'll be absolutely roasting. And so there's not much in between. And I think that whole flexibility, particularly when we think about uniforms in workplaces, when we think about the comfort of people, their ability to concentrate, to regulate their body temperature, and just to feel like they're okay, what we're wearing is so vitally
Mm,
important. And that's why when I met you, I just said we so have to have a conversation about this. So can we see some items then? Can you
you
just
can.
demonstrate something, because
I don't know how easy
you've shown
this is
me.
going to be.
Well, let's do. You've got that lovely pink top, haven't you? So for people, let's talk about the unique, parts about this garment that might appeal
Okay,
to people.
so this is a viscose spandex, so you can see how drapey it is.
Yeah.
Takes color really beautifully, as you can see. I would say, again, within the range, is we haven't gone mad with fashion colors. We've gone for
Um,
we've gone for products that we know will have, large appeal. So this is another example. Sorry, I'm just.
Well, that looks like a nice colour coming in.
So this is, yeah. So when it's St. Patrick's Day later on this month, we'll put that.
Yes.
We'll do a
Oh yeah,
little offer on that one.
lovely.
So
And
they're really rich colours.
yeah,
Sorry, I
and they
can't.
don't fade, do they? That's
No,
the thing. They
no,
don't
they keep their
fade like,
colour.
yes.
We are using, okay, so we use really good mills. The fabric mills are really top end mills who produce the fabrics. And so we know that their performance is going to be amazing. So in terms of the shrinkage should be really good. The color fastness is great. You can wash them in a normal washing machine. It's 30-degree wash, 40-degree wash. This one, I think, again, I don't know if you can see that
Yeah,
with a
it's
bat wing.
beautiful. Yes, so tell us a bit about the sleeves, because you've put a lot of love and attention into things like the sleeves. So because we know sometimes women can be quite self-conscious, can't they,
Yeah.
about the shapes of their arm, and that's largely because we lose muscle tone throughout our midlife and menopause transition. So how have you accounted for that? Show us on
So
the garments.
So this one obviously is a bat wing.
Yes.
Oops. Yeah. So when that drops, that comes down to,
Yeah, lovely,
yeah,
very sensitively styled.
yeah. And we do that in quite a lot of our products actually.
And you were telling me about the stitching, the sort of focus that you put on the
Yeah.
stitching quality.
So again, let me show you on here our basic t-shirt. So this is just a really simple t-shirt, but what we wanted to do is we're conscious of this being, one could consider this to be an expensive t-shirt. This is £36. It's a technical t-shirt. So what we want to do is make sure that you have a good quality t-shirt. So we do twin stitching here. We've got a back neck binding here, and then also twin stitching here, which you can't really see here, but
No, but you can, but it just screams
it just
quality.
finishes. It's just making sure it's finished off really nicely. So I don't want people to feel they've been conned. That's the most important thing. In terms of, I don't think I've got the palazzo pant here. The palazzo pant's gorgeous. This is our lounge pants, and let me just show you. So again, on this, we've done really,
Oh yeah,
top
beautiful. Yes.
stitching here. Even I know this is, you would never even notice this, but in a waistband, sometimes they don't gather it enough. They cut on the fabric, so they don't have a nice gather.
Okay.
So we want to make sure that this has, the waistbands have nice, when it's on, it's not pulled tight, you've got to gather.
And so when you do the drawstring, it's nice and even.
Yeah, but you've also got the gathers. It's not just like, it looks as though it's stretched
Flat.
to an inch of its
Yes.
life. Yeah.
Yeah. And those palazzo pants are so lovely. I have them and I travel in them because they're just like so forgiving.
I love them. And also because they're really slouchy. They are really kind of,
comfort, maximum
your
comfort,
Sunday
and
afternoon
stylish.
slouch.
They are
Yeah.
on trend,
Yeah.
which is amazing. And what I also sort of loved is the shaping. So shaping is important if you have a bigger bust. We were talking about bust sizes earlier, but making sure you're in the right fitted outfit. Then actually those details about the V shape, scooped neck, length of sleeves, these are all things that can boost your confidence, how good you feel about yourself, as well as, like you say, I think we must make so much more of that. It's a technical garment.
Yeah. I think also I was conscious of, when we did the initial trials with women who we knew were suffering, a lot of them were in the workplace, and they were saying that sometimes they'd be in meetings and they'd be just like, oh my God, they could feel the hot flush coming. And they'd be going down into pretending to get something out of their handbag because they were like, really didn't want to, because they were with some young guns in the, in the office. And I just thought, you know what, if you knew that you had something on that is going to lessen that, to make you more comfortable, make you more confident, you know, that you have got something that's going to not cause you to feel so awkward. You know, that's the other thing in the work. That's one of the things that stuck with me in the workplace, actually, about
Yeah.
women, like,
It's
feeling.
it's so powerful because I was in London last week, and of course I was on the tube. I had my great big woolly, lovely coat on. Honestly, I was in bits by the time I sort of got to the meeting venue. And because it was so thick, everything under was so thick because I was desperately trying to keep warm. I sort of got sort of like breaking of my skin here because everything was so tight. If you knew you could wear a thinner garment
Yeah,
because of the technology within it, that whether you were on the tube, whether I was in an air conditioned room, I'm going to feel comfortable. I mean, people were saying at this meeting I was at last week, you know, companies need to drop their average temperature in their offices by 1 degree, and that would help with people's comfort. But it's going to help some people's comfort. For
yeah,
me, I'm going to be frozen if someone drops that. So having something that's unique to the individual seems like a much more sensible approach
yeah,
to me.
yeah.
So from your point of view, I mean, in terms of this, I mean, we talked offline a little bit before. I mean, I think employers are going to need to pay much, much more attention
Yeah, agreed.
to uniforms. Um, but what you spoke to me about, you used one word about sort of visibility. Let's talk a little bit about that then, shall we, with garments? Because what we don't want to do is stigmatize people, do we? Like,
Yeah,
oh yeah, there's so and so
yeah,
over there.
yeah,
They've had an allowance for some extra uniform. Well, let's talk a bit
yeah.
about that. How important is it for
So I think
visibility?
in developing the whole range, we were, again, listen to what people, we know that people, despite the narrative that's out there and how much people are talking about menopause, there's still women who do not want to be identified as such. So we wanted to make sure that everything that we design is non-identifiable in terms of, it's a cream V-neck top, long sleeve. We don't have big logos, you know, printed across the chest, or any emblem that would suggest that it is for menopause. This is your go-to classic core line t-shirt, long sleeve top, because, you know, we've just been talking about people not wanting to be self-conscious. If you're going to put a big brand name across suggesting that this is for menopausal women, it's, you know, it's not going to work. So again, everything about what we're doing is non-identified, even down to, not that color would make much difference, but, you know, if we were doing something that's slightly a color that nobody else is doing, you know, we just want to make sure that we do go under the radar in that respect, because there are, you know, if we did do that, and there are people who, like my daughter, she was a teenager, she was wearing, because she used to get hot at night, she used to wear my
Mm,
clothes because it's the only thing that keeps me, you know, comfortable at night.
yeah.
And she would still wear our t-shirts, our long sleeve tops. If it was like a garment saying that I'm a menopausal, you know, and I'm 20, 21, you know, it is for anyone who literally has an issue with their body temperature, you know, because we are also, we've actually done a turban for women who are suffering through chemo.
I was, you know, you just read my mind. I was thinking it's not just, it's people having cancer treatment, anything else
Yeah,
that's going to cause dysregulation of your body temperature. I interviewed Dr. Sarah Mackay, who is actually an amazing neuroscientist in Australia, New Zealand, and she basically was explaining to me about this whole, our temperature regulation window gets so narrow that it's so confusing. It doesn't take very much for our body to think I'm on fire, or I'm freezing. And
yeah,
so having things that can help us expand that window a little bit, or not be one or the other, is so powerful. So you're absolutely right. I mean, I can imagine your range getting even bigger. So obviously we know people wear things vary for various religious reasons, so hijabs and things like this. Clothing is so important, isn't it, for us culturally and as women?
Definitely. And the whole thing with the chemo side of things as well is that, again, that's been a really, my sister-in-law went through, had quite a lot of treatments with chemo, and that was the only thing that she wore. She'd wear it, wash it, wear it, wash it, because it was the only thing that made her feel comfortable. Yeah.
Well, I think we need to crack on and tell people how they can get hold of this stuff. I mean, they don't have to wait for the next Pause live conference at the Business Design Centre, which I believe is happening again this year.
Yes, it is.
But how can people know more about your products?
So we are online.
Yeah. So what's your website?
Our website is www.51apparel, all one word, not numbers, just so it's 51apparel.com. And there we are also on Facebook. Our strapline is Cool Clothes for Hot Women.
Oh, I like that.
And we're on Twitter and LinkedIn as 51 Apparel. So yeah, we're easy to find.
Yeah, absolutely. And so because you're UK based, do you just ship to the UK, or do you?
No,
lots of people will be looking at this internationally as well.
The American market is really big for us. The Americans love it. We had an article written by NASA actually last year, and the sales just went absolutely bonkers because of that. So we got more customers from us. The Americans were quite keen anyway, but the States and Canada and France is also a big market. The French are very into their health. They're very sort of in tune with themselves.
And alternative and things that they can lean into before maybe medicines or other things. They like to dabble. I used to work for a French pharmaceutical company, ironically, selling HRT. But yeah, it's a very interesting culturally, and I think actually the community of people going through menopause are also the same. I was very pro HRT to start off with because I was desperate. I felt like I didn't even have the wherewithal to think about anything else. But actually, as I've gone through it, I'm much more open to trying lots of things: exercise, sleep, supplements, clothing. So I'm a big fan, and as we said before, certainly the companies we're working with, we do expose them to lots of these great products. And let's just touch on that before we finish, because boy, is the menopause market awash with a lot of stuff. Obviously you're in this place, you have a product that technologically stands up and actually has benefits for people, but do you have any views about how everybody and their brother and auntie and uncle seems to be coming up with a product and putting an M on it, says menopause? I mean, is this a good thing for consumerism, or do we need to be careful?
I think with anything you have to be careful. When people will, I mean, I feel like, well, did I jump on the bandwagon? Not really. It wasn't even a band. It wasn't even a wagon, let alone a bandwagon. When I first started thinking about it, of course there are going to be companies that just think, oh well, yes, I'll put menopause on it and it'll give it a different angle. But I don't know whether or not I'm in that space, and therefore I see more of it, or whether or not there is genuinely, a wash with, too much stuff. But listen, I think the consumer's quite savvy. They know when it's real and it's not real,
Yeah, because I saw, a couple of years ago, maybe Primark came out with a menopause clothing range, and that, I think that really divided opinion, because people thought, well, hang on a minute. And then people didn't want to pay the sorts of, people were skeptical of what it was they were actually receiving. I mean, I think what I always lean into, Louise, is if you've got data, if you've got proof of concept, if you can demonstrate that, those things are really powerful for people, because we must remember we're living in times of financial hardship, crisis, and people are desperate. I spent a fortune on stuff, and I'll never get that money back. I didn't actually feel much better as a result of it. But in times of desperation, we've got people putting themselves into financial hardship, maxing out on credit cards, and this is all to just, either get an appointment with a private doctor. So we don't want people to feel that vulnerability, but we
No,
do want people to know there are great products out there. And
yeah,
I am standing behind your product and saying it's a great product. And so that's why I wanted to get you on. So I know.
yeah. I think that's a really important thing you've said, because that is from the get-go. We've always been really conscious about price points, because we can see that exactly what you said, people don't have the cash, and because our market is not, it's an age bracket, really. It's not to do with how deep your pockets are. So our customer base is from, it could be somebody in a 1-bedroom flat to a 7-bedroom house. It has to go across all the demographics, really, because it affects everybody. It just doesn't target people who've got deep pockets. So therefore we had to set ourselves a target of a price that is accessible to everybody. Now, you could argue a lot of people still think £36 for a t-shirt is, and I totally get that, but we have tried to give the best technology that we can offer, and that's that's how it sort of comes out at. So
100%. It's about making your choices, isn't it? Some people will spend that on supplements. Some people spend
yeah.
times that on having their hair done, which is what we spoke about before. But we make all our choices, don't we, based on our own needs, our own wants. So I think this is just another opportunity. I think people will be thrilled to hear about your products, Louise. It was a real great moment. It made going to that conference really worthwhile for me.
Oh, thank
So
you.
so we'll make sure we put the show notes up, and so that people can read this and talk about it. We'll make sure we put your website 51apparel.com. We'll put that on there, and I'm sure people will be in touch with you. I mean, I'm going to be in touch with you after this anyway, because I know lots of my corporate organizations would be very interested. But I guess, any last words to you around what's your hope for women and people navigating menopause? What do you hope, as someone who's spent largely a lot of your life in this industry? What's your hope?
I just hope that I think also, particularly for women who are in the workplace, that it does help them stay in the workplace, because I think that's been one of the issues, is that, as again, well documented, that people are leaving the workplace. So I think the most important thing, in my view, is to, from where I'm coming, give them a product that helps them sleep, and give them a product that actually helps them get through the day. That would be what I'd want from what we're doing.
Well, I hope you're looking into doing stuff for men, because the andropause is around the corner.
No, I have been asked a lot to do something for men.
Because men
phase
get
2.
Yeah, well,
Phase 2.
honestly, I think that's going to be a big one too, because we've got a lot of people who are male and male biology who are also struggling with similar symptoms, maybe not as extreme, but similar symptoms. So
Yeah.
maybe that's a part 2, Louise. We'll get
That
you
is
back to
definitely
talk.
phase 2.
That's
It's
a phase
definitely,
2.
and they will pay more than women will for their clothing.
Is that right?
Yes, they do.
Oh, a bit of consumerism and
Yeah.
analysis there. That's really, really interesting.
Well, technical products anyway.
Well, yeah, exactly. But yeah, guys do love their technical products. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you
I'm
so
so
much as well.
grateful to you, and I really look forward to having more conversations with you. But for now, Louise Nicholson, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. See you.